I'm excited to share with you this presentation on shot selection, something that I'm really passionate about. I think it can be a separator for players. I think it can be a separator for teams. My name is Steve Cramer. I'm the owner of Cramer Basketball, the founder of the Coach's Edge. We work with players and basketball programs around the United States. And shot selection is something that we talk about a lot with both the players and the coaches that we work with. And as we dive into this presentation, I want to share a quick story that I had from a pro combine that I was coaching at. I was asked to work a scouting combine where players were trying to get that pro contract to play overseas. And one of the coaches that I was with had played for North Carolina, and he was a semi-pro coach in the US. And he was talking about how, it's okay. He loves it when his players work hard. He knows that if they're working hard and they're making mistakes, that's okay. But he said, one thing that I can't coach, or two things that I can't coach, are selfish and stupid. And that really stuck with me because not that we're trying to call our young players, stupid by any means, but it definitely is a sign of basketball IQ based on the types of shots that players take. And it can be a great way to evaluate somebody else on, are they a selfish player? Are they unselfish? Are they a team player based on the types of shots that they take in a game? So as we dive into this presentation, I hope that you'll find it beneficial with some of the things that I point out and to give you an idea of what you can do better to make sure that you're taking smart shots, that you're teaching your players to take smart shots. And we'll talk about some of the skills and drills that I think can make you a little more effective when it comes to shooting the basketball as well. Another reason why I'm super passionate about this is I felt like my coaches and my dad, who was a big influence in my life as a player, they really pounded into me at a very early age of what types of shots were good shots. I was a kid who worked a lot, spent a ton of time in the gym, outside, the driveway, getting shots up. And certainly that's going to help you become a great shooter. But, as a college player and as a high school player and an overseas player, I shot over 50% from the field. In college and overseas, I shot 40% from three or higher. And I think the reason for that wasn't just because, hey, I could shoot it. I think the reason for those statistics were, as a point guard / shooting guard, was because I had a really good understanding of what my shots were. And so that's something that I try to pass on to the players that I work with is, yes, it's one thing to be able to do a shooting drill and to truly be a high level shooter, but it's another thing to be able to understand the shots that you're really trying to hunt down in a game. So as we get in this first slide, what is a good shot? Is it in rhythm? Is it within your range? And is there room? And I think rhythm is one of those things. We know it when we see it. We can feel it when we do it. You see that player who's open, they hesitate for a second, then they take that shot, they lost their rhythm. That player who goes into a pull-up, they kind of fumble to pick up a little bit, and then they take that shot, they lost their rhythm on that shot. We want to make sure we're in rhythm. I used to say balance, rhythm, and range, but I think balance, if we have balance, that's going to allow us to have some rhythm in our shot. And if we have rhythm in our shot, we were probably on balance getting up into that shot. And we added room. I felt like room was a little self-explanatory for most, but if we're talking in this presentation about perimeter shots, for the most part, generally up to that 3 feet, 4 feet mark, you're really not that open. I mean, it's easy to contest the shot, to lean a little bit, and you have a hand up pretty easily. If we can really try to hunt down shots that are more in that 5 to 6 foot spacing range, I think from the defense, especially some of those inside out spot up type shots, those are good shots that I think we have a chance to knock down at a high level. Obviously, every player is going to be a little different with their skill set, how quick their release is, height of release, and those things obviously come into play. But as we're talking about what makes a good shot, it's shot at a high percentage in drills. It's shot at a high percentage in games. It's something that we're practicing often. We expect to make that shot when we shoot it in games. So as we dig into this, a couple of team dynamics that we want to really talk about are our positions on the court. When you take a shot for your team, are your teammates in a position to do what they need to do? That could be offensive rebound. That could be get back in transition. Is the floor balanced and spaced? meaning it's also a shot that is expected within our offense. Everybody, it's funny watching a game, you'll see all of a sudden somebody take a shot and, the other 4 guys or girls are like, whoa, they didn't see that coming. It needs to be something that is expected from the rest of our teammates so that we can recover accordingly, react accordingly, respond accordingly. Now, a couple of the things that decide whether it's a good shot or not are the situation. Time and score have a lot to do with this. The foul situation, we go on and on with all the things that dictate different situations and points in a game to help us determine if it's a good shot or not. If you take a shot with 3 minutes left in the first quarter, that might be a good shot. If you take that same shot with a minute or 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter, when you're up 3 or 4, that same shot might be a bad shot. Why? Well, maybe you're holding the basketball, they're going to foul, and you're going to go to the free throw line and put the game away. Instead, you took a shot that you really didn't need to, give the chance for the defense to get the basketball back, right? So all these situations come into play, as well as your personnel. Best shooters get to shoot more. Basketball is not an equal opportunity sport. Best shooters get to shoot more, right? Best free throw shooters get the chance to play in those close games at the end. Best defenders get to play more. Best ball handlers get the chance to play in the games when the ball is being pressured. It's funny how many people are like, oh yeah, I'm a point guard. And then the press comes and they're like, hey, somebody else play the point, right? You got to want some of that pressure. And hey, if you can handle the pressure, you can handle the heat, you're going to get to play more during those big games against high level teams. Now, a couple shots that I really try to emphasize. And again, in this shot selection presentation, we're talking perimeter shots. Obviously, we want to get to the paint finish. We want to draw fouls. And the closer we get to the basket, the closer the defenders are going to be. So that's kind of understood as we're getting into this. Now, inside out spot up shots are shots that we want to hunt down, where there's not a whole lot of work to be done by the perimeter shooter, except catch it, lace them up, square up, and let it go. Now, we can get inside out through drive and kick, post entries, basket cuts, offensive rebound kickouts are great options. Out of bounds plays are great options. There's many ways, but if we can try to hunt down those type of perimeter shots inside out, great opportunity, good high percentage shots. The next one is relocation type shots, where there's minimal movement from one spot to the other to try to maybe gain a better passing window so that your teammate can find you a little bit easier. Maybe you're on the wing and you drift down to the corner because the opposite baseline drive is happening. Maybe you just threw a post entry pass and your defender's digging down to the post a little bit. So you're relocating one side or the other, depending on how the defender is digging to the post player. Those slight relocations where maybe it's just 3 or 4 feet from one side to the next to get a little more space away from the defensive player and create a better passing window are huge when it comes to relocating and finding easier, better shots for us. Now, what I work on with our players is not all relocations have to be fast. So if we're in a position where I can just shuffle step right or left, I'm staying square to the basket. So as soon as I catch it, I'm already in line, boom, I can see the rim and I just eye it up and shoot it, compared to saying, okay, I need to get to the wing, but I'm at the seam or the slot right now. I'm going to turn my body and take and run 5 or 6 feet to get there. And then you got to turn, square back up again, do all that work. If we can get the work done early, great shooters have great shot preparation. And so to be able to keep our body in line to the basket while we're moving, if at all possible, is a great way that we can make more shots, shoot it at a higher percentage, get the work done early, shot prep. Pull-up jump shot, to me, is a good shot. I'm not talking about those deep twos where, those situations probably just shoot a 3. I'm not talking about those contested, tough contested shots. I'm talking about those situations where we're, in that 14 to 15 foot range. See a lot of these against a zone where there's kind of pockets within the zone that are open. It's just about, hey, can I get to that spot and then rise up? And that's going to be a good shot for me. And obviously high level players can hit the pull up because they're being pressured. they put the ball on the deck, defense gets back on their heels and they're more of a recovery position. You hit the brakes, you rise up, and you knock the shot down. So pull-up jump shot isn't necessarily for every player on your team going to be asked to knock down that shot, but I certainly think that there's players on our team that we want taking that pull-up jump shot, especially the players on our team who are asked to create and that handle the basketball a lot. That's probably going to be a much easier shot for them to be able to take and knock down in games anyway. With that said, free throws, finishes, those are positions, those are types of shots that we always want to hunt down as well. Now, when it comes to shot selection, a big part of that is who are we selecting to take the shots? Players' strengths and weaknesses come in here, as well as the opponent's strengths and weaknesses. As we talked about before, the best shooters get to shoot the ball more, and they get a little more leeway in some of the types of shots that they're going to take because they're the best shooters, right? They can hit shots that other players on the team are not going to be able to knock down on a consistent basis. With that said, if a player is a catch and shoot person, we're trying to get them in those situations a lot. If a player handles basketball a lot and they shoot it better off of the dribble, because that's what they do all the time, then it makes sense to put them in more situations where they're creating and then being able to get up into their shot. Maybe we're loosening them up with dribble handoffs, ball screens, some dribble weave type actions, things of that nature, trying to make sure that we're putting our players in a position to succeed. I always say we want to strengthen our strengths, improve our weaknesses. We can't have liabilities. And so as players and as coaches, we want to say, okay, what do we do well? How can we do whatever it is that we do well more often? How can we, in season, how can we really say, okay, these are some of the things that are weaknesses, or maybe from a personnel standpoint, okay, well, I'm going to limit the situations that certain players on the team are in those situations and really try to make sure that we're shifting how we play the game and what we do to the player's strengths, if at all possible. As we get into a couple of the types of drills that we want to talk about, let's break down one thing. As we go back to this slide, a good shot, if we're talking from a technique standpoint, you have a shot line, right? The most important aspect of shooting is to keep the basketball straight, because you could have the power, the rhythm, all of these things, but if the ball doesn't go straight, you're not going to make the shot, right? So this is my brother. He's a college player, and he's left-handed, as you can see. And so he's got a great shot line. I always say shot line is foot, hip, shoulder, elbow into the follow through. And so as he's finishing on a shot, it's very clear for you to see that he has that left foot, left hip, left shoulder, and then up and out into his follow through in that line. So as you're thinking about high level shooters, they may not start in the same position as far as how they're bringing it up, especially those players that shoot it off the dribble, right? They're getting it from different spots, different locations. But as you start to bring the basketball up and get your hand underneath the basketball, you should be able to start to see that true shot line that a player has. And the higher level player you have, almost the longer they can be out of that line and then get into that line and knock down that shot. But for our beginner players, we really want to emphasize, hey, we're creating a shot line. Here's what it looks like. And how can we build straight shooters? Because that's what we really want to have. High IQ players who can keep the basketball straight and are unselfish. Yeah, we got a shooter right there. That's a good thing. Some of the shooting drill types that we work on with players, whether that's at our player development camps, when we're running basketball practices, is some things to think about. Block training, same thing, again and again and again. Great to reinforce technique. Great if you're making a change to a player's shot. Maybe you're working on a certain thing from a rhythm standpoint, a stance perspective, how they hold the basketball. That's almost the change in itself. The variable in itself, even though it's block training, is because you're really trying to get a change there. And so that's great for that. It's also good for building confidence. You get a lot of shots up in a short amount of time. Now, that if we just stop there, it's not going to translate into game performance, because in a game, the only time you do the same thing twice in a row is shoot 2 free throws. Other than that, everything is always changing, so in my growth as a shooting coach and as a basketball coach in general, I've always thought I had a pretty good understanding of like technique and block. as well as live game shooting drills. What I've tried to get better at in recent year or so is the variable type drills where we're working with a player and it's like, okay, catch and shoot from the 3, and then we're going to rip it, get one dribble down into a pull up, and then we're going to backpedal, catch and shoot a 3, and then we're going to drift back to the corner and catch and shoot one right there. And so these are all different shot types. It's not random in the sense that there's a decision to be made. We'll get that in next, but being able to change up the shot type, these are all shots that we're going to try to have to knock down in a game. Those variable type drills, I think they keep kids more engaged. They're more game applicable, right? We want to make sure that these apply to the game. And then they help the player, I think, stay focused a little bit more, because there is they're realizing that every rep is different. So when I'm thinking, okay, this next rep is different than the next one, I'm thinking about that. And I think that helps players stay locked in and focused. And then as we build towards that, then we're getting into random type shooting drills. One of your most basic ones to really just work on the focus aspect of it would be, you pass to somebody, you keep your hands down, they shoot it. You pass to somebody, you put your hand up, they pass it back to you. You pass to somebody, you step at them or kind of close out at them, they got to pull it and drive it. So this is random, right? Different decisions. They don't know what you're going to do, and you just partner up and you do some drills like that. And kids have fun with it. It could also be a call. It could also be, you pass to somebody and you put your hand out a certain way, they got to go the opposite, So there's a bunch of different random decision-making drills, and those are great to reinforce and I think fun for kids as well. And then obviously getting into some live game shooting drills, which involve some decisions, and they involve contested shots, which are a lot of fun for kids when we can design drills that have contested shots. You say, okay, first player to make, 5 out of a specific shooting drill, wins, and you're firing the basketball out to different players out on the perimeter, and you got some defenders inside the 3-point line, and wherever the basketball goes, they got to get a contest up. Is a lot of fun, competitive, and applies to the game. Inside out shots, don't know who's going to get it, don't know when they're going to get it. Defender doesn't know who's going to get the ball either. And so those are just a lot of fun when it comes to shooting the basketball and being competitive. So if you found this beneficial, what I would recommend is, this was like a broad variety of things that I think about when it comes to shooting the basketball. With our coachsedge.coach membership and the coaches we work with, we take deep dives into specific areas. We actually have 2 private presentations on shot selection within our coachsedge.coach membership. And then this one is a little more variety as far as some different things that we think about when it comes to shooting the basketball. And I think straight shooters are great shooters, but not unless they understand what their shot is. You got to hunt down the shots that are most beneficial for you. And that's understanding your own strengths and weaknesses as a player. And as a coach, is making sure that you're putting your team, your players in a position to succeed by understanding what their strengths and weaknesses are, and making sure that you're creating an offense, a system that puts them in a position to succeed as well. If you have any questions about this, let me know. If there are things that you really emphasize with shot selection for your players, I would love to know more. Like I'm doing drills like green light shooting, right? Where, a player has the green light to take shots in a game based on their performance in certain drills. Those are always interesting to hear what types of drills you emphasize there. Obviously, we have a bunch of scored shooting drills that help us kind of determine the level of a shooter a certain player is, that are a lot of fun as well. But I'm always trying to learn more about shooting the basketball, something that I'm really, really passionate about. If you have questions, reach out to us on social media. You want to follow us, check us out on social media. The Coach's Edge podcast is something that we come out with an episode at least every single week, that we started out in 2020, which is a ton of fun. And if you're interested in attending any of our camps, you can check out our website, cramerbasketball.com/events, and that'll give you the event calendar for the coming months, everything that we have scheduled. We do a lot of basketball camps with closed camps or private camps with specific high school basketball programs throughout the course of the year, especially in the summer. And then we also have some open camps where I'll rent out a gym, a high school, a facility, and then anybody from, the area can come in and attend some of our camps, which are a lot of fun as well. So, man, I love shooting the basketball, and shot selection is like one of my most passionate subjects. I think it can be a separator for you with, the level of player that you become, because you're building your basketball IQ, you're building your understanding of the game. And that really says a lot about you. And, if you're a player who wants to play at the next level, that's something that coaches are watching. Like when I get asked to direct a scouting event, there's two things that I really, really try to look at when I'm looking at a high school player and really trying to see, okay, how's this player going to, have a chance at the next level? This is excluding talent. Obviously, we need talent, right? You want to be big, strong, fast, quick, jump high, all those things. Okay, that's great. But from a basketball standpoint, how hard do they defend? And their shot selection tell me a lot about who you are as a player. And they tell me a lot about who you are as a person, right? If you're one of those players that defends when you're guarding the ball, but then you're off the ball and your man gets beat and then they go score a layup, and you're like, well, that wasn't my guy. That wasn't my fault, right? That's selfish, right? If you take a lot of bad shots, somebody else has a chance to do something better. That's selfish, right? And then also getting beat in those different areas tell me a lot about your basketball IQ, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, off the ball. How do you rotate off the ball? When you're in the gap, when you're in the help side, how do you communicate? All of these things help tell us as evaluators, what does this player know about the game? What's their understanding of the game? And the same thing goes for the types of shots that you take in the game. You tell a lot by a player, the type of shots that they pull in the game. So if there's anything I can do for you guys, please let me know. Coaches, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. Be sure to check out our Coach's Edge membership as well. And if you have questions about that, please let me know. My email is contact@cramerbasketball.com. So thanks for checking us out, and get after it today.